Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. I will, of course, be your host, Callum, for this evening. And again, thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday evening to join us, where we talk about everything shooting, all of the past week's news and topics and events. And it's a chance for you to have your opinions heard, get involved in the conversation, whether you agree, disagree, use that chat box. And if there's any questions that you have about shooting, getting into shooting, getting involved in this sport, then again, you are more than welcome to propose any topics, bring up any discussions that you that you want to. And of course, more importantly, don't forget to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed. And for anybody that has been tuning in for the last couple of weeks, well, yes, hopefully there's a noticeable step up in quality from the previous streams. I mirrored. Oh yes, yes I am. There's a very good reason for that. Um, let me see if I can change that. I knew there'd be something. There we go. Ha ha ha. I thought something looked a bit odd. So the reason the reason that I was mirrored is, and the reason for hopefully the step up in quality is I am now back up to full capacity with my streaming and equipment. Of course, I got my my MacBook very wet, which I wouldn't advise ever, and it died a very terrible, painful death. But fortunately, there's a little thing called insurance, so I now have a sizable upgrade, and this thing is just you can't phase this thing. It's beautiful. New M2 MacBook Pro with all the cores. So hopefully, yeah, no dropouts, no stuttering, and more importantly, higher quality. But yes, I was frantically before the stream just trying to make sure that everything was set up how it should be, and I forgot the mirroring. But I'll take that. And if you can hear fireworks in the background, yeah, you can deal with it. So why are we talking about shooting indoors? Some of you have already given your opinions about the thought of solely, exclusively shooting indoors. Please let me know what you think. Just have a think for a second. If all of the shooting you did was restricted to being indoors, how would that affect you? Would that be a positive thing? Would that be would you lose out on shooting? Do we think we would lose out on some areas of shooting sports if it was all restricted to indoors? And that's part of what I want to talk about this evening. Of course, there's a lot going on at the moment in terms of the restriction of lead ammunition, and that seems to be mostly, if not solely, affecting outdoor shooting. And then when you start to sit down and think about it, I end up thinking about it for a myriad of reasons. There's loads of other issues. What? Well, that's not good, is it? Yes, that's less than helpful. Oh god, it's all going today. Yeah, I got the new Mac, but forgot the battery in the camera. So anyway, I'm just going to chat for a little minute while I put a new battery in the camera and hope that this one's charged. Oh, I need some like elevator hold music, like dun 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 dun. Dun. Let's put something. Let's put a placeholder, shall we? Oh, I don't know how to. Anyway, I'm still here. There we go. That's a perfect placeholder. There we go. The perfect placeholder. Anybody tuning in will not know the difference. Everybody appreciate the Connor's T-Rex. Oh, and we are back. There we go. It would have been a really bad idea to like not be wearing underwear this evening, would it? Let me just plug the I knew there was something I'd forgotten. All this technology, I'm getting old. Let me just plug the power into the camera. Make sure that that doesn't happen again. Hello, close up. Ah, the beauty of live streaming. There we go. Ah, it's like nothing ever happened. There we go. I think that was a pretty smooth recovery. No one noticed, did they? No, nobody at all. No, didn't think so. Anyway, what an improvement. Yeah, fuck yourself. So where were we until my camera decided to go night mode? So looking at everything that's going on that affects shooting, it's basically quite evident that it's becoming harder and harder to shoot outdoors. And I'm going to go through a few examples which have been well covered on this channel previously. And the other angle that I come at it, well, there's loads of angles that I come at it from. One of my goals, and I've made no bones about it, is that I want to start my own range at some point. And yes, you know, there's the business aspect of it, but there's also the personal aspect, having somewhere that I can literally say, get off my land. Oh, you know, don't have to worry about petty beard stroking old fuddy committees and councils and all of that. And, you know, that don't, you know, you fired more than one shot in 30 seconds. Oh my God, the world is going to end. You don't have to deal with that because, you know, my range, my rules. And yeah, tell me where that famous quote comes from. So you don't have to do, so I wouldn't have to deal with that. And also having somewhere where I could literally go pretty much any time, any day, any time, and go and train. So there's huge personal benefits for me, and of course the channel. Not forgetting the channel, having my own place to go and film and create content, and again not have to deal with idiots that put various restrictions on what you can and can't do on a range, even though what I'd be doing would always be completely legal and safe. So there's loads of personal elements to that. And when thinking about starting your own range, buying your own land, building your own whatever, you got to think, well, you know, are you going to see the longevity of it? Are you going to you get a return on investment? Is it going to be shut down after you know, X amount of years, or are you going to have noise complaint problems, or are you actually going to be able to use the ammunition that you want to use on it? And all of these considerations are predominantly focused on the use of outdoors, and of the use of firearms outdoors, the use, you know, outdoor ranges. And it sort of steers you back, or I continuously steer myself back to, if I was to get my own range, if I was to run my own range, be that, you know, pay and play, be that private, you know, members range, whatever, or just my own personal range, because, you know, why not? Actually, it makes so much sense doing it indoors. There's so much more protection and longevity in doing it indoors. And actually, this concept as well has been I've sort of stolen it. And what I think really sparked the idea was actually the current regional director of the UK PSA, Richard Clifton, and he's a firm believer of this, that the future of our sport is indoors. Everywhere you look, there are just issues with shooting outdoors. So the big one at the moment, of course, is the lead. They want to do a total ban on lead birdshot, but perhaps we should be looking at some, like they have with general lead ammunition with lead bullets, have, you know, continue to do it indoors. The whole issue with lead is around the exposure in the environment and getting into the food chain. Well, if you're shooting at targets, it's not going to get into the food chain, and if you're shooting indoors, it's not going to get out there into the environment. So if all lead use is contained indoors, it can all be reclaimed. You can use the right ventilation systems. There's no risk to anyone, as long as the systems are up to a minimum standard and they're able to sort of clear any of the particulates that may cause problems. So, you know, on the lead front, indoors is a big winner, and indoors is what is allowing us to effectively keep lead ammunition, and may even allow us to keep lead birdshot or lead shot, if there's places indoors within the UK that you can use it and that can be put forward as a valid argument, then you start to look at previous stories. You have more recently the consultation on the permitted development rights. Let me bring it up just to remind you. All right, so this is another battle that this isn't just UK centric. This is, in the world. Like there's places across the world that have issues with, um, planning department, zoning restrictions, whatever they're called in your country, right? And this was a direct attempt by the Scottish government, or is a direct attempt by the Scottish government to basically make it impossible for people to start shooting clubs. What they want to do is remove the exemption or the there's yeah, I'll call it an exemption for lack of a better phrase. We have the 28-day rule here, which means you can use any land for any purpose for up to 28 days without planning permission. Well, they want to remove that. Well, that's about, outdoors, right? That's about fields, that's about woodland. If you have a structure, if you have a building, what you do inside that building, yes, there's other planning things, the change of use and the what that building is approved to be used for. But you can have a lot less of objections of a change of use inside of a building, especially if you own that building. Because when you start shooting outdoors, you have things like noise, right? And this was another consideration in the story that we've covered here on the channel. The Buddhist monks. Now, as it turned out, the Buddhists didn't actually care. It was a load of quick clipboard wielding villagers that really had nothing better to do. And I just love the fact that they've used that as a stock picture. But the big concern here, again in Scotland, was to do with noise. There was this. What the villagers were saying were there were this monastery and this peaceful, cozy little Scottish village, and having a long range shooting range nearby was going to disrupt that peace. It was going to cause all sorts of disruption. So, we can't deny that, shooting is loud, right? Shooting does create noise pollution to an extent. It takes up a lot of space. We now have all these restrictions or these pending restrictions around the use of lead. They're making it harder to be able to use outdoor space for shooting sports. And then you have to deal, when you're outdoors, you're visible, right? It's harder to police. It's harder to secure. We've had potential issues up at or there were people that thought there were going to be issues up at Recoil Scotland for the recent level 3 shotgun match that they had there. They were worried about protesters, and it's a massive site. So you could easily have people breaking the perimeter, strolling onto the range. And that actually happens quite a lot. You even have it down at Bisley where you have people walking across lanes or coming over the backstop. There's so many ranges that I've been at where there's been a ceasefire because some walker has ignored all of the flags, all of the signs, and wandered onto a live shooting range. It's incredibly hard to secure a site like that. So, security and safety of the shooters and what you're doing is also, reduced when you're shooting outdoors. And all of this just seems to point to, if we want to, well, first of all, are we going to be forced indoors? Are we actually going to have a choice about it? But actually, for me, I will never lay down, right? I am here for the long haul, and I want to see shooting sport still about by the time that they put me in the ground, one way or another. So I want to ensure that there is a future. And actually, when you look at it, I think the best way to secure a future for shooting sports is by moving indoors. Now, I'm not saying that we should give up and just start closing all the outdoor ranges, but certainly when you look at the success stories that we've seen in recent years about new ranges, they are the indoor ranges. They are the likes of Phoenix, the Phoenix Shooting Centre up in Barnsley, the double juice ranges, and we're seeing certainly a larger frequency of indoor commercial pay and play ranges pop up because it's a lot easier to do indoors. There's not the same level of planning requirement required. There's not the objection to noise. There's not the issue of backstops and danger zones. Right? There's so much that by moving shooting indoors, you just remove so much aggro. Well, what do we lose by doing that? If yes, of course, I think we have to look at it that if that is the only way to secure the future of shooting, then that is what we have to do. Um, but if we start planning now, if we start having a bit of forethought and thinking, actually, what's the best way of protecting the sport? What is the best way of ensuring that we have a sport for decades to come? Ignoring all of the potential bans that we might have, we still need the equipment to be able to go and do the job. But I think having less of an uphill battle and maximizing the amount of people that you can get in requires as many ranges as possible. To make as many ranges as possible, you want to do that as cheaply, as quickly, and as easily as possible. And again, that all points to doing it indoors. Now, the first probably shooting discipline that you might say is going to suffer would be clay pigeon shooting, right? But no, we've I think we were talking about this last week or the week before. There are massive warehouses that do clay pigeon shooting, and actually in doing a bit of research before this video, I was searching through a lot of different photos and sorry, those like images and videos and stuff like that. And there's actually a number of indoor shooting ranges, not just clay pigeon shooting, but rifle ranges and all sorts that are using these massive warehouses. So, you know, for me, this is the way that we keep clay pigeon shooting with lead, right? This is the way that we keep the sport as it is, because it's going to change significantly if they keep on restricting the ammunition based on health and safety grounds. So clay pigeon shooting can work indoors. Practical shooting. Now, there's already a number of different indoor practical shooting ranges, and there's a lot of matches that are done solely indoors. But it doesn't have to be restricted to just the likes of handguns or, say, mini rifle. Shotgun can be done indoors, rifle can be done indoors. And I think, okay, it's CZ and it's Eric Graffel, but this is a perfect example of the sort of range that could more easily be built. Big, wide open, able to do a lot with it. You could have, say traditional shooting lanes. You could have, open it up to a base. You can do some dynamic practical shooting. And again, you can use it for shotgun. You can use it for rifle, mini rifle, pistol, whatever you want to do, PCC. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility. And again, the noise is contained, the rounds are all contained, any contamination is contained. So you're less likely to have any objections to it, and people are more likely to come and try it. Let's not forget of the potential personal benefits of solely shooting indoors. It doesn't rain indoors unless you're my old Mac, and then it does. Anyway, so there are a lot of benefits. Of course, the one real area of our sport that would suffer if we went solely indoors is going to be long range shooting, because building long distance ranges, 600 yards, 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards is very expensive and very, very difficult. But not impossible. And I think this video sort of sums up actually how much of an uphill struggle it may be to get long range shooting indoors, because this is supposedly, well, I mean, this video was filmed 4 years ago, so I don't know if it's that up to date, but it's claiming it is the longest underground indoor range in the USA. Oh, it says underground, longest underground indoor range. I read it as just longest in indoor range, but that's saying 150 yards, right? So if you take that as the longest indoor range in America, it's only 150 yards. Like, you know, the target rifle shooters 223, 308, they're not getting warmed up until like 600 yards, right? And yeah, they're not really stretching their legs. You need 1,000 yards, 1,200. But if we have the foresight, if we start thinking about it now and going, actually, you know, you've got to sort in a way pick your battles. It's not about giving up and rolling over, but it's being pragmatic about it. What is the most effective way to ensure the survival of the sport? And I think ultimately that is indoors. And if we start doing that now, before they, because in a lot of the issues that we see politically with the petitions, with the consultations, it does seem to revolve around, and I'm talking excluding just restricting the guns themselves, but everything else just all seems to be about ring fencing outdoor shooting. And what I think we're seeing as well is that indoor shooting is suffering because of it, right? So if we're pragmatic and we go, actually, it's it's only ever going to get more difficult to shoot outdoors. The future's indoors. Let's start planning now. Let's start planning the first 1,000-yard indoor range, right? Let's start getting that infrastructure and those facilities available so that in 10, 20 years, when it's potentially nigh on impossible to shoot outdoors, we have the facility and we don't then lose those sorts of disciplines. Because let's be realistic about it. And I've said it plenty of times before, like Bisley, right? Fantastic facility and something that should be around for hundreds of years to come. It's just unfortunate that the danger area is so significantly large and just so happens to be incredibly valuable development ground, right? I don't think we could begin to put a figure of what the land is worth just of Bisley Camp alone, never mind the acres and acres and acres of danger area. Now, the saving grace is that, there are other ranges that rely on them and they are MOD. But what happens when the MOD decides, actually, we don't need this facility anymore? We're just all going to move down to, Salisbury Plains, right? Or we're going to use another range. We will actually take the billions that some property developer is going to pay us for this prime plot in the heart of Surrey to develop and put multi-million pound houses on, then overnight we lose Bisley. We lose arguably, well, I think arguably the best shooting range facility we have here in the UK. And whilst there's it's not always the shining example of what a range should be. Look at what's happening over at the likes of Silverstone Shooting Centre and their development. Um, all of the new ranges that they've just built are all indoors, right? Yes, they started with the outdoor ranges. Yet they've that's where they've built their sort of core membership. But all the other facilities are now indoors, and I think there's this growing trend. So I don't know. Let me know what you think of that idea of that idea. Again, I'm just trying to be pragmatic about it. At the moment, we are on the sort of the precipice of losing lead shot completely, right? And I think the only way to potentially save that is using the justification of using it indoors, right? And that's what got me shooting with this, and got me thinking with this. And I really think, if I was to go and put my money into a range tomorrow, every time, whilst my default view of a range is outdoors, it's nice, big, spacious bays, and out in the countryside, outdoors in the fresh air, right? I When it's not absolutely chucking it down, I much prefer to be shooting outdoors. But but when I really sit down and sort of crunch it in my head, like, I don't think it is a sound investment investing in an outdoor range now. Yeah, if you were to put your money into a range, I think sensibly it has to be indoors, and I think for me that sort of says it all. But anyway, let's see what you guys are saying. Um, oh, that caught the back. That's what she said. So yeah, one of the first comments, we've got a bit of a spooky theme because obviously it's coming up to Halloween. God, I hope not. Um, to be honest, the main thing I like about shooting uh, is reading and compensating for the environment. The same is true for archery. It's okay practicing indoors, but doesn't come close. Shooting would be incredibly boring if fully moved indoors, to be honest. I don't get the boring side of it. It's a very good point about the compensation and dialing in for wind. I know certainly for the long range shooting, that's where a lot of the skill comes from. But yeah, in terms of boring, you can have a lot of fun indoors with a gun. Um, it's just I don't know why shooting indoors is any more boring. If they, what are you saying? If they had practical shooting bay indoors, that would be great. But I want to get into long range stuff about 1 kilometer and beyond, as I just got my FAC. That would be ruined if it all went indoors. Yes, again, I don't know of any facility in the world where you could shoot 1 kilometer indoors. But again, I'm not saying that I'm not the one sat here going, this is what we should all do, guys, right? This is what I want us to all go and do. I'm just trying to be pragmatic about it. I'm trying to look into the future and go, where is the future of the sport, right? With with the amount of population density and all of that, it's harder and harder to build new outdoor ranges without offending or annoying or aggravating a whole bunch of people these days. And look at the amount of ranges that get shut down or further restricted because somebody's decided to move next door to one and now doesn't like doesn't like the noise. There's a playground that has been around for years and years and years, not too far away from here, in Leon Solent, and it's based right in the middle of this nature reserve, which I always find just a little bit ironic and funny, really. But yeah, it's this protected nature reserve, but there are housing developments all round, and I can actually hear it, or I used to be able to hear it from my garden, just very slight in the distance. Um, my in-laws used to live right by it. It was one of the closest houses to the nature reserve, and it annoyed them. And we'd chat about it. He'd be like, "Oh, I'm going off the idea of ever going shooting with you because those noisy shooters over there, they ruined my Sunday morning outside with a coffee." And I do get it. People want some peace and quiet and all of that, and all they can hear is shooting. But the playground was predated the housing development. The shooting ground actually predated a lot of the houses in the area. So, it wasn't their fault. They were technically there first. But what's happened? Too many complaints to the council, too many objections, too many people with obviously too much clout. And the council, I guess, out of desperation to stop receiving angry letters and emails, made the playground a ridiculous offer for the land. And at least that, in a way, at least somebody's got a nice retirement now out of it. But a whole club has lost their ground. There's a lot of local shooters that have now lost somewhere every couple of weeks to go and shoot clay pigeon shooting. Now the nearest clay ground, I think there's the Fareham Clay Club nearby. But certainly they're going to have to travel a lot further if they're in like the Leon Solent area. The nearest grounds, instead of 5-10 minutes away, you're now talking, potentially half an hour, 45 minutes away. So there's been a big loss in that respect, and that's all down to, again, people shooting outdoors, creating noise, and inadvertently creating a nuisance. So there's definitely downsides to us sort of, I guess, trying to pursue the continuation of what we have now. Maybe we need to, again, be more pragmatic and go, we can be stubborn and, well, I've always shot outdoors, or the best shooting is outdoors. Yeah, we used to have normal handguns. There's a lot of people that are really stubborn and won't touch a long barreled pistol. I think they're losing out. I think they are self-restricting themselves. If the only shooting we have left is um indoors, are you all just gonna stop because, oh no, it's not the same, it's not as good, oh, I can't do my long range shooting? Uh, Boomer moment. No, it's just last time I left my camera running afterwards. Um, if only the camera was replaced with something better too. All cameras need battery, Arian. Like, hush, 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 hush. Anyway, I got it back up and running quickly, didn't I? Elite Hyper 31. If you opened a range, I'd sign up. Yes, wife and I would sign up straight away. Good. Maybe we could do a pre-order and start raising some funds for it. um, both ranges I shoot at are indoors. Yeah, a lot of people's ranges solely are indoors. Peter Rose, the problem I can see with indoors is that it will end up as Laser Quest. They'd make the argument that it's lead free and quiet, but again, lead stops becoming an issue. Now, okay, there has been issues with indoor ranges and the use of lead, but that was due to ventilation systems. Oh no, actually, I'm not going to go into detail because I don't know. So I'm sure a lot of you, there was a range. I'm not going to get into names because I ideally want to sit down with them, but you guys will probably know the range that I'm talking about. But a range, pay and play range got shut down in the Midlands, right? And it was all down to their ventilation system not being up to scratch. And after going and seeing them and talking to them and really understanding what had happened, it wasn't anything to do with the ventilation system. It was other procedures that members of staff weren't adhering to as strictly as they should be. None of the customers had an issue. It was the staff, because they were handling stuff and they basically weren't washing their hands from what they were saying. So I do want to try and, like, you know get them to maybe come on the channel and actually get them to talk about it, rather than potentially starting Chinese whispers and all of that. But yeah, that wasn't to do with the ventilation um, of lead. That was down to poor handling practices. So by and large, with all of the indoor ranges that we have, and people aren't dropping dead left, right, and center of lead poisoning, it shows that you can control the contaminants. So it doesn't matter if it's lead free. Like, to be honest, even if you're using non-lead or your lead alternatives, non-lead ammunition, there's still smoke, there's still particulates that are created from shooting indoors. So you're always going to need that extraction. So the argument for lead free, if you're shooting indoors, doesn't stand. And in terms of quiet, you can't hear it outdoors, or just slight pops, right? It's the majority of the sound is contained indoors. And most people, I've said before, where I started shooting was right in the heart of London. And I mean right in the heart of London. It was first at Blackfriars, and then it was at London Bridge. And we were literally a few feet away from major major roads, major paths, and nobody ever knew we were there, right? Because we were indoors, it was sealed, it was quiet, the noise were contained. And whilst I hate, I'm all about promoting and showing off this sport and being loud and proud about it, but there is oh, I'm gonna be careful what I say here because people are gonna go, "See, he's turned," or "See, we were right all along." It's not about being quiet about this sport. It's not about being quiet and non-vocal about this sport. We should be singing from the rooftops. But there are big benefits in being quiet while doing this sport, if that makes sense. So, video, post it on social media, tell all your friends, shout about it, whatever. But when you actually go to do it, you sort of want to be as quiet as possible because then you don't get stopped from doing it. You don't get the issues from doing it. And you don't get people just because they've literally got nothing better to do, start writing petitions because they found out that there's a range nearby and they don't like guns. And that, like, seriously, every single one of you, tell me that that hasn't happened. You don't know of a range that has been shut down because of some keyboard warriors, because of some clipboard wielders, right? People just don't like shooting, and some people don't like shooting, and some people just want to see as much shooting stopped as possible. So if you can contain that shooting indoors and nobody knows about it, how are they ever going to shut it down if they don't know about it? Other than obviously promoting it on social media, which, if they don't know where it is, they don't know where to go and shut it down, do they? Hammy H, lead will be banned for indoor use at some point too. Absolutely guarantee it. I don't know. The thing is, they don't have the same justification. They don't have the same reasoning. I mean, their sort of reasoning and justification at the moment is weak at best. And yes, they are being very efficient and effective with it. But there really is no justification to stop the use of lead indoors. What's like birds aren't eating it. It's not soaking into the ground and being left. It's all recoverable. Like there's no argument there. Fat Cockney, the NRA are taking the piss with their membership hike. I will be right back. It's like, oh, I smell. If it's anything to do with Basque bashing or NRA bashing, it's like, oh, I smell blood. Let's have a look then. Let's see if they've done anything publicly. I don't know. I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any posts about it. I can't remember. I think when I first joined, so this is the NRA of the UK for anybody wondering. I'm just having a look. How much is it to become a member? Here we go. Standard membership. I think from memory, when I first signed up, it was like £80. Now this was this was when I signed up at the British Shooting Show in Stoneleigh, which probably tells you how long ago that was. It must have been a good, God, at least 8 years. Wow. Yeah, that doesn't feel good. 8 to 10 years ago is when I first joined the NRA. See, their prices. I know we were talking about lead, but this is intriguing me. So just to show you, the standard price now is £120. What's that in inflation? Let's go inflation calculator. Let's have a look here. So let's see if it's in line with inflation. Bank of England. Here we go. We're getting all scientific to go. So if I say it was £80 in, when I'd say 10 years ago, like 2013, cost today £107. That's not bad, right? So they're £10 more than inflation. They've gone like, I don't know, unless that's not the actual new fee of what they're doing. Um, so Rachel saying it's gone from £99 to £110. Us shooters, right? Honestly, like, you will happily go out and spend £2,500 on a long range scope. You like the stuff that shooters will pay extortionate amounts of money for. Like, don't even get me started about like Olympic three position and all of that. Like, you will go and spend hundreds of pounds on gloves, thousands of pounds on optics and chassis and all of that. But they put your membership up by £10 a year and everyone loses their mind. It's like, the price of ammunition, like CCI Minimag has increased more than the NRA yearly annual membership, right? When I started shooting, Minimag was like 60 to £70 a thousand. It's now 125 if you're lucky, right? What would I rather? You know, expensive membership and cheap ammunition, or expensive ammunition and cheap membership? Because I shoot a lot more ammunition than I do memberships, if you see what I mean. That wasn't meant to sound like that. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if that's really that bad. And everyone lost their mind the last time they put the fees up for the certificate application. Well, it was in line with inflation. Yes, they did say to us they were going to sort their act out and start doing quicker, more streamlined grants and renewals, and then it got even worse, and we're still paying more. So, granted, but the last increase was in line with inflation. Like, things increase. Have you seen the price of petrol recently? I mean, if you really don't like that things increasing in price, do not go and look at a petrol station forecourt. Um, to grow the sport, we need ranges near population centres, ideally inside cities. The only way to do that is with more indoor ranges. More big EU cities have ranges right in the heart of the city. Dave, thank you very much. That is a point I wish I had made. I want to sort of think that in a roundabout way I did. Um, but no, the whole thing of it, this is actually another issue about outdoor ranges. Not only does it have all the problems of noise and safety and backstop and danger areas, planning permission, the use of lead ammunition now outdoors, but to even have a chance of an outdoor range being approved or sustainable or usable or not going to be shut down within a few months, it usually has to be in the middle of nowhere, right? There's, granted, Bisley, right? Bisley is, pretty well situated, but I think if you look at the new ranges, you tell me a new outdoor range that has been built near a large population center in the last 5-10 years. You are absolutely spot on. It is new ranges. It's in inner cities. It's where the people are, right? You can't build an outdoor range in London, but yet there's 7-8 million people in London that could potentially start up shooting. What are they all going to hop on a train or jump in a car and drive through a ULEZ zone to go out to Bisley? No, that makes it far harder for people to go and enjoy this hobby. That's a very, very good point. Really, thanks for making that one. It's the idea that long range shooting will simply die, as I don't think realistically we can have over 500-meter ranges indoors. Not with that attitude, we can't. Never say never. Like, maybe that's what the NRA should be using their membership fee increase for. Perhaps they need to be looking at, putting a roof over Century, putting a roof over Stickle Down, right? It's how just trying to think about like a decent warehouse size, you know, it is not out the realms of possibility. It wouldn't be cheap, like don't get me wrong, really wouldn't be cheap. And then you would have higher maintenance costs, but what yeah, I think that's really it. It is the long range. Pretty much everything else can be quickly sort of converted to indoors, even the likes of clay pigeon shooting. It's the long range stuff that is going to become very, very expensive. The tunnel in Devon, yes. So the tunnel shooting center actually is a very good. Well, again, it's a relatively newer range. Um, so I can't remember when they opened up, but in the scheme of things, it's uh, not been that long. So, by the way, like I highly rate the tunnel. It is a fantastic facility. If you are in the Dorset sort of Devon area, then 100%. I'm just trying to see like when yeah, based in Dorset. They are right. Well, I'll show you. Right, it's like a brilliant idea. Oh, I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Basically, there was this road, right? Um, this old road that they ended up building a bypass for. But the reason it's called the tunnel is because, surprise, surprise, it's built in a tunnel. You can't really see it, but it's built in an old road tunnel, which is fantastic. Oh, here we go. The tunnel itself opened in 1831. Conversion work began in 2009, finished in 2010, when Target Sports Centre began business running new ranges. So it's been about for over 10 years. But again, in the scheme of ranges, it's um, quite young. But I just want to see the distance. 25-meter ranges, 35-meter ranges, 100. So again, it's not super long range, and of course, this is where they had the um, why can't you guys? Oh, I opened up a new tab. Here we go. I was gonna say, why can't you guys see what I was looking at? So some of you remember shooting a 50 cal. So that was done at the tunnel. I don't know if they still have that experience. I've got a feeling that they don't. And yes, it felt a bit silly, right? Shooting a 50 cal, a 50 BMG at 100 meters. Again, it's not even like not even tickling it at that distance. So yes, it is incredibly hard to do long range shooting indoors. That is the area of the sport that will potentially be lost if we are effectively forced inside. Again, I'm not saying that we should roll over and go, yeah, let's just shoot indoors. I'm just thinking, if you're out there thinking of starting a range, starting a club, try and do it indoor. I think there are huge benefits to do it in sport. And you know, the majority, like the all practical shooting at the moment, done in the UK could be done indoors. So selfishly, I look at it and go, if I had my own range, what would I be doing on it? I'd be doing practical shooting. So, like to me, it doesn't make a difference if I do it indoors or outdoors. Um, and actually, a range. Thank you very much, Nitsa. A range that I think really um, should be mentioned when talking about great facilities and indoor ranges is, of course, Nitsa. But what are you saying? Yeah, thank you very much again for the support. Even in the middle of nowhere, you still worry about being closed. If we shoot 1 minute past our agreed open time, we run the risk of being closed. Um, so I guess the caveat we're talking, I class Nizza as an indoor range because you mostly don't get wet if it rains. It depends what side of the range you're stood on. It's a really, for those of you that don't know Nizza, I've shown it loads of times. There's a video on the channel. It's a video on the channel. I'll just get it up. Um, it's range. So the construction of Nizza is um, open, but it's undercover. Let me see if I can find a picture that isn't a video that isn't just my head. Yeah, it's just all my head. It's just all my head. I need to do another video. Let's go for just Google Images instead. Um, yeah, I'm sure I can pick something off from here. Let's go share screen. Let's arrange share. Oh, there's me. So there are some outdoor longer range, but you can see here, this is actually one of the sides of the indoor range. And then if we go into here, that's that same bit there. And all of them, oh, that's a much better image to show you what I'm talking about, even though it's obviously was taken with a potato. Come on, load. But anyway, you can see the sloped roofs, right? So these bits here are open to the elements, but overall it's undercover. And actually, despite being going to Nizza a fair few times, I'm still I'd still like to really find out exactly the sort of the reasoning behind doing it. I don't know if it's, I guess, because you don't need ventilation. You don't need ventilation because you've got natural ventilation. Um, Probably a slight cost saving on construction. But it's saying about if you shoot 1 minute past our agreed open time, you run the risk of being closed. Would that be the same if you were a complete indoor range? And therefore any noise, because of course you do have the outdoor ranges, even though the firing points are covered. But if you were to completely enclose the indoor ranges and no noise could get out, would that then be an issue? Be interesting to find that out. English shooting, you fire 22 WMR down the range. I can get through £100 at a time easy. It's not a cheap sport. No, this is sort of my point, guys. Is like people worry about it, the NRA membership going from £99 to £118 or £110 or whatever. Yeah, like I am not worried about a 10 or 20 quid increase in my membership fee when it comes to the costs of shooting. I've broken it down before. Like when we go away for like a national level 3 match, right? You know, granted, we're maybe not the best example because we tend to stay up there longer than we need to for filming and just generally having a weekend away. But you're talking at least one night in a hotel, right? This is one match, right? One night in a hotel, 100 quid, easy, right? You're talking fuel. That can be anywhere depending on where you go in the country, 50 to £100, right? So you could easily be up to £200. And this is two people sharing this. Say Connors and I sharing, right? If you're there, for a full day, you're talking breakfast, lunch, dinner, or if you get up there the day beforehand, you're talking, dinner and then breakfast the next day. That's easily 20, 30 quid per person. So what for the two of us, we're say, even conservatively, 250 quid. If it's mini rifle, the ammunition isn't so much of a consideration because you'll get through 300 rounds at what, 10 pound, £15, whatever, well, like £12, Yeah, £12 100 mini mag is at the moment. So what, that's another 30 quid up each. So we're now over £300. You've got your match entry, so that's getting to around £100 each now. So that's £500 for the in total for the two of us. Yeah, so for one match for two people, 500 quid. If you're sharing a car, sharing accommodation, we tend to do more Airbnbs because we share with more people. Food and ammunition and match entry, right? So £250 each sharing for one match. I'm really not worried about 10 or £20 increase on my membership. Like that's, there are other bigger increases to be worried about. Hammy hate shotgun cartridges when I first started were £97 a thousand for clear pigeon. Membership prices are a bargain nowadays. Yeah, when I started, when I first got my shotgun certificate and I bought my first 1,000 cartridges, so this would have been in, this would have been 12 years ago. So what, 2000 and 2011, was that it? So, yeah, around then, 2010, 2011. I got 1,000. I think the first 1,000 white gold. So Game Ball white gold, not the cheapest stuff. I think it was like 180, maybe £200 a thousand back then. Like it's now, I think that it's knocking on the door of 300 quid a thousand for a similar cartridge. I don't know if they make white gold anymore. Arian, indoor ranges will require higher costs from the industry. However, it will also force the innovation of technology to reduce those costs. So yes and no. Yes, to build an indoor range, right? There are some significant additional costs, mainly the steel that you have to enclose that range in to create a backstop. If you've got a range over another range, one on the ground floor, one, well, look at, well, both Phoenix and Double Juice, they've got stuff going on above the range, so you can have to make sure that the floor is bullet resistant. And then the ventilation, like one of the biggest costs with an indoor range is the ventilation system. But okay, it's, I think it's more, I'm trying to think, like space is space, right? If you have a one bay indoor range versus a one bay outdoor range, like, it's the same amount of space, should technically be the same amount of cost because it's the same amount of land, apart from one's got a building on it, so it will be significantly more expensive. But certainly outdoor ranges tend to take up a lot more land. You never have an outdoor range that is just the bays, if you get what I mean. There's normally a lot more going on around it that is owned by the range and controlled by the range. So actually, if you get, and I think that's more down to with the fact that you need to build bigger backstops, you need to have danger areas, you need to have more control over the land to stop people from wandering in and out. So arguably, indoor ranges are more space efficient because you don't have to worry about backstops. You don't have to worry. Well, you don't have to worry about big natural berms being built, taking up a lot of space. So in that way, you're using effectively less land, so you don't have to buy as much land to put an indoor range on it. If that makes, I think there's logic in that. I think I know what I think I've said what I think I've relayed what I'm thinking, if that makes sense. I'm quite tired. Uh, so, but then also people generally, they're likely to pay more. Like if you have a field with a load of bays in it, right? How much are you going to charge for membership? Right? Yes, you're offering somewhere to go shooting. Yes, you're offering a shooting facility, right? But how much could you reasonably charge for it? Because it's in essence just a field with a berm put in it. When you have an indoor range, it'd be really interesting to compare the prices. I don't know all of the prices off the top of my head, but I'm going to go out there and assume that the indoor ranges probably do charge more for membership. Or maybe they because they're offering more, right? Would you rather go and sit in a field with, a thermos for a whole day? I do it regularly for shooting, or to would you pay for a membership that it's basically you're either shooting in a bay or sat in a chair that you've bought yourself in a field with a thermos, or would you rather like the likes of the Phoenix Shooting Center, pay a membership where you have an all-round or your all year round range where you're not going to get cold, wet, and you're going to actually want to go to in all weather conditions. And then after you've done shooting, you can retire up to the billiards, the billiards membership room. They've got the billiards table. They still have it. I'm pretty sure they've still got it, where they've got a bar, working flushing toilets, which a lot of people are going, why are you getting so excited over a range with flushing toilets? You've obviously never been to an outdoor range in England. There's a bucket. Try not make it too messy for the next person. So people are probably more willing to pay more because it does cost more to run an indoor facility, but people are more willing to pay more. I certainly would be more willing to pay more. Never mind that there's another angle to it though. A range out in the middle of nowhere that's outdoors without a huge amount of facilities. First of all, again, there's not a lot more to offer to entice people to go there. And again, our people are going to travel all the way out of the cities to go there. There's an argument that if you have an indoor range in the city and enough, say, pay and play members are coming, right, you could actually get the public in a roundabout way to pay for the members range. And I'm pretty sure that's sort of what Double Juice and Phoenix do. They make enough from the people that literally want to come and spaff 25 rounds down range and leave and, go and have a few drinks with their mates afterwards because they're on a stag do or a birthday party or whatever. So they make enough money from that so that they don't need to charge huge amounts for for their regular members, people that are really passionate about shooting, that have their FACs, that pay their annual membership. And I think it comes back, was it Dave that made the point about putting ranges in higher, in areas of high population density, which you just can't do with an outdoor range. If HS2 isn't going ahead, that would make a great range, especially the underground bit. I mean, that's not necessarily a stupid idea. Not that I think the the UK government is going to start letting you use a very, very expensive tunnel to start shooting down in. But if there is a long, straight enough, and long enough and straight enough bit, could very well be. Somebody's asking about. Oh, I think people. Oh, that's right. Thinking Sweden have a long range that shoots over a major highway. Yeah, I've seen that video loads of times. If you haven't, I'll bring it up for you guys. Tom Scott range. Here we go. Let's share screen. So let's get to the good part. Here we go. This is it's a brilliant way. Again, they've got a problem and they've just thought round it. I love the fact that they've technically got cows downrange. But it's really cleverly constructed. Like, it looks insane, right? It looks absolutely insane, but it's completely controlled. There is literally no physical way that somebody could, put around somewhere dangerous. So yeah, you can't see the cows, you can't see the road. More importantly, you can't see any people there. It's, yeah, fantastic. Why is there subtitles? Turn on sub off off. Oh, it's because they're obviously talking in Swiss, I guess. Um, that's why there's subtitles. Of course, it's not. It's not the captions. Anyway, yes, again, that is an indoor range, but I did just have another reason for indoor ranges, and it's completely slipped. Joy. Oh, that's it. Lord Roberts Centre, right? The Lord Roberts Centre is it is an outdoor range. Um, that could very easily be indoor range. And if you think, they're very contained, right? They face like towards all the clubhouses, right? But they've got that big concrete wall all around it. That's very contained. If they were to actually cover up all the ranges, again, I guess ventilation and the additional cost of that, but you could effectively plonk that anywhere uh, in the country. Nitsa Callum, I took that picture with a 4K Maverick Air 2S. I'm guessing it's Google that obliterated its quality, unfortunately. Because I can never remember which model I've got, but I've got a drone. And I think it's something very similar to that. Daniel, a match weekend, the match fee, ammo, and hotel can be 300 quid plus. Yeah, it easily can be. Like, we worked out the other day that it's actually not that much more expensive to shoot abroad, which is crazy, right? Because usually when shooting abroad, your accommodation is usually cheaper and the food is usually cheaper, and certainly the beer is cheaper. The match fee is usually about the same now. Ammunition is, if you're taking your ammunition, it's exactly the same. So instead of driving halfway up the country, you jump in a plane, right? It's funny how for not a lot extra you can go abroad shooting. Rachel, I entered the National Shooting Comp at Bisley in August and spent over £400 for the weekend. It's an expensive sport, but to be in, but very enjoyable, and that's why we do it. Absolutely. You're saying our 25-meter indoor range is 90 quid a year. So let's put that into perspective, right? The NRA, Bisley, £118 a year, right? You have a 1,200 yard range with, I think it's like at least 40 or 50 lanes. You've got Century, 600 yards with, I think, like 100 lanes. You've got Short Siberia, which I think is that 100 and 200 yards, or is it 200 yards and 300 yards? I think it's 1 and 2. You've got Melville, all the gallery ranges, Charlesmore. Like, you get a lot of range for your money if you join the NRA, right? £118 for all of that facility, and pretty much able to do any shooting. Although you do have to pay for your lanes, I guess. That I'm overlooking. Whereas I'm guessing at your 25-meter indoor range, you probably pay a much smaller range fee than you do at, say, the NRA. But still, having the ability to use Bisley, 120 quid, don't think that is bad at all. Putting it into perspective, right? The UK PSA membership is like £60 now, right? The majority of that cost is insurance. The insurance for the UK PSA alone this year was like 45,000. It increased marginally from last year. That's a big cost, right? A huge proportion of cost for the association. But the UK PSA, like 60 quid membership, but doesn't have a range, right? You a lot of what you're paying for is the insurance to be able to go and do that sport, and also the UK PSA, protecting the sport. And there's a very important thing that I do need to talk about, which I should have talked about much earlier. But it's the NRA that has a full range facility and also has insurance for another 60 quid. Like, I still think it's not bad money. Having said that, I still think the UK PSA should have a range, and that should definitely be a goal. And if I was to go forward with it, I would probably say it would need to be an indoor range. But talking about the UK PSA and what the UK PSA gets up to, I just, please, I'm sure many of you have already done it. But if you're sat watching this stream, you obviously have nothing better to do. Um, so I've just put a link. I've just put a link to a Google form, right? And it doesn't matter it doesn't even matter if you haven't heard of practical shooting, right? Go and complete this form. So we talked about Richard earlier, who's the regional director for the UK PSA. I'm going to bring the form up on the big screen. Here we go. So there's this HSC-led consultation survey, right? Let's be real about it. Most of the other organizations have pretty much given up, right? It's like, oh no, we're going to lose lead. Oh dear. Oh well, we tried, right? I can tell you there is a very core group of people within the UK PSA that are not going down that easily. And Richard is doing absolutely fantastic work in launching the UK PSA's counter to the removal of lead ammunition. And there was an email that went out today from Richard to all the UK PSA members, basically pleading with people to go and complete this form. So if you haven't already, click that doc. It's literally going to take you a few seconds. You can do it, like, you can still listen to me. You don't have to be looking at my gorgeous face. You can be listening to me while you fill it out. So go and fill that out now. And if you're watching this, after the stream, then I'll put the link for this in the comment section below. And I really do believe it is that important that I may even get a quick video out, maybe even like a fucking 30-second, 1-minute video out on the channel for the weekend. But I'll read you what Richard has put, and which will hopefully convey why it is important for as many people to respond to this as possible, because we are determined to save as much lead ammunition as possible. So the HSC has launched its latest consultation on the prohibition of lead in ammunition. The immediate danger to IPSC shooting, practical shooting, is the recommendation that lead shot be banned for sale and use for shooting outdoors. This would likely be the end of IPSC shotgun. There are other equally worrying recommendations, such as a restriction on the use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting. But whilst there is mention of derogations, these have yet to be fully defined. Whilst there remains a deep skepticism and distrust around the so-called scientific studies Reach UK and the HSC is relying on, we can only focus on the target that presents itself. Therefore, it is imperative the UK PSA makes the strongest social and economic case for IPSC target shooting, so we have a hope of obtaining clear and workable derogations to allow our sport to continue. Time is of the essence. I cannot stress the importance of you, our membership, engaging in this process. I urge you to take immediate action by completing our brief 6-question survey available here, which is what you can see now. The UK PSA remains committed to championing the best possible outcome for IPSC target shooting. We will be submitting a formal response arguing for reasonable and practicable derogations for all target shooters, but in particular for our grassroots shooting community, which we believe has been largely ignored to date. For us being able to add weight to our argument, we need you, our membership, to engage. I know only too well how exhausting this persistent and seemingly endless series of consultations can be, but please do not rely on somebody else to speak for you. Due to the lack of response to previous consultations, we can now see the skewed and unfavorable results this poor engagement has allowed. It's almost like I wrote this. I didn't. But like this is literally what I've been saying to you guys for the last I don't know how many bloody years. Our collective voice is our strength, and the results of this survey are targeted at demonstrating the actual harm that Reach UK, the HSE, and government will do to both the economy, but more importantly, to the actual health and well-being of our communities should our shared passion and sport be taken from us based upon questionable science and establishment overreach. Sound familiar? This is why your views matter. Thank you for continuing to support IPSC shooting and the wider shooting community. Together, I hope we can send a message to the government that target shooting is as important as any other sport. And literally what Richard wrote in that email is what I've been saying to you guys. I really have very little time for anybody that can't be asked to give up 30 seconds of their day to fill out these consultations. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes up a minuscule amount of time. You can do it while you're sat on the toilet instead of scrolling through TikTok, right? It it is imperative that the volume out of our collective voices is continuously heard by the likes of the police, the government, our MPs, and organization like HSE. As soon as we start to fall off in the numbers to the consultation, they will know that they have won and they know that they can roll over us. And I can tell you now, the likes of Richard, the UK PSA, we are not willing or wanting to roll over on this, right? Other organizations may have already, and we all know who they are, but the UK PSA is not, right? It really is going to destroy practical shooting in the UK if they do not bring in sensible exemptions for people to continue using it for sport in controlled environments, which there is no justification to not allow. Anyway, so let's have a quick look through. Like literally, you can do this. You could. Well, I'll do it now. Right? How long is it going to take me? Are you? Oh, there's some right. Oh no, there's not even any writing. So, how old are you? Oh, I'm still in the lower brackets there. Do you participate in IPSC practical shooting? Yes. Which practical disciplines do you participate in? Have interest in tick all that apply? Yes, 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 yes. I've never actually done any full bore or PCC, but oh no, I have. I have done rifle out in the States and we did do PCC. So there we go. It's a full trifecta right there. What describes your current participation level? In sport shooting, is sport shooting a principal sporting activity for you? I'm going to say that's a definite yes for me. Does sport shooting provide you with an opportunity to socialize with friends or family? Definitely. If the opportunity to shoot was diminished, would you be less active as a person? For example, would you go outside less? Would your life become more? Yes. Literally, shooting is the only exercise I do. And if I do any other additional exercise, it's purely to get better at shooting. Like literally the only reason I have a gym membership is because of shooting sports. Do you consider shooting sports to be an important part of your identity or way of life? Now, I know, you know, not everyone is going to be able to like answer these as easily as me, but yeah, I'm unsure on that one. Yes, of course, it's a fucking yes. Approximately how much? Oh dear. is can someone check if Holly's watching this? Approximately how much do you spend on shooting activities a year? This should include everything from guns and ammunition, club memberships, to even the petrol you put in your car to get to the range. Mm, I mean, what did I say? Like 250 quid for a level 3 match. And there's oh, probably at a minimum, there's 6 matches. So that's at least 1,500 quid. Then there's the likes of like going to America, going to Greece. So definitely going to be in that bracket. Um, it's hard because it's technically a business expense. I mean, if we're talking about business expenses, then it's gonna be the 10K. Um, like, I can assure you that Maglo definitely spends more than £10,000 a year on shooting. How much is your shooting? This include everything from guns, ammunition. I mean, the ammunition alone, I'm probably oh, I mean, they're not personal expenses. Activity, guns, ammunition, club. I'll leave it at that. Well, none of it's really personal. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. There we go. But anyway, that did not take me long. Actually, that was my that was the hardest question. And if Holly is watching, there will definitely not be a stream next week. I mean, technically, this new Mac was all to do with shooting. Technically, the camera and pretty much everything I spend money on is to do with. Yeah, that's definitely over 10. Submit really did not take that long, right? And what you are going to end up doing, it may seem like how is me going to be answering those questions going to make any difference? It will, because once again it's about a numbers game. It's about showing HSC the impact that what they are doing, and how unweighed or outweighed it is, how the damage that they are going to cause is outweighed by any of the good that is going to come from it. Fill it in fill it in again now on your computer and then on your missus phone. Just filled it in, taking 2 minutes. Yeah, so please click on that link and fill that out. It will make a difference. Certainly with an organization with from the UK PSA, we have 1,400 members, right? If we can get anywhere near 1,400 responses or over, like we're getting on to 100% of the membership, right? That is huge. That really does drive home the engagement that our membership have. If you are a UK PSA member, I'm not even asking, right? I will I will put in a formal complaint for any UK PSA member that does not fill out this bloody form, because you need to do it. Like, there's no excuse. If you are not a practical shooter and you're not a UK PSA member, I understand, but you're still going to do it. If you are watching this video, there is literally not an excuse that you can come up with that will excuse you from not doing it. So go and do it. Tommy Gunn, oh boy, don't tell the wife on how much I've spent. Daniel, just another back way door to close the sport. Absolutely. So yeah, on that note, we never really came, and I know there's a few of you that disagreed with the whole indoor shooting, which of course was the main topic of tonight's stream. Some very good points. I think overall people have made far more points towards yes, like it is probably going to head that way. It probably should head that way. There's a lot of benefits, but of course, I think what we have extrapolated from this evening is that long range, there needs to be a solution for long range shooting before we as a whole community can really get behind it. We certainly don't want to lose anybody behind. That's not why I proposed this. It's purely about protecting the sport, purely about growing it and ensuring that it's here for decades to come. So we will yeah, I personally, it is where I think shooting sports is going. And if you were going to invest anything into the future of shooting sports, I think ultimately it needs to be indoors. But on that note, guys, I am going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining. I hope the stream, despite the little battery mishap, whoops, never actually done. I don't think I've ever done that on stream before. Yeah, apart from the mirroring and the battery um, mishap, it went pretty well, and I hope the quality and overall has you're happy with it, because yeah, Macs aren't cheap. So if you want to support the channel, you can go to EnglishShooting.org, and it will redirect you to the Magload shop, and that's where you can buy your English shooting merch. Yeah, so you can go to EnglishShooting.org if you want, but you're going to get redirected to Magload. So just go to magload.co.uk if you want to pick up some merch, some English shooting merch, not just mag swag. And there was somebody that asked the other day on stream about an olive drab ES cap. There's this whole bloody joke at the moment about olive drab and my detest for it. And I say my detest, have literally just painted our living room olive drab. I am sat here in olive drab trousers, and my humidor as well is also olive drab. So I'm slowly becoming olive drab. So if you do want an olive drab English shooting cap, so I ordered 3 just because I don't actually know how it's going to look, so I don't want to buy too many. But basically, the guy who wanted who asked last time, last stream, one's on order for him, one's on order for me, and I have a spare. So if you do want an olive drab English shooting hat, be quick. If you do want one, just order one on Magload. It's just a black one. I haven't even, because I don't have photos of it. To be honest, if you want any color English shooting cap, I can probably get it. So you can just go on there and buy that. But anyway, that's only if you want to support the channel, and I can completely understand if you don't. But there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. Hopefully, lots of indoors and outdoor shooting. Again, like, subscribe. I will see you next week. And of course, as always, guys, I hope to see you soon.